Hello class. So some of you have asked me a question on chapter 4 word problems. So I thought I'll make a very quick video on some of the important word problems and how you should tackle them, especially pertaining to chapter 4, writing linear equations. All right. So without much further ado, let me stop this video and start sharing my screen. And while I share my screen, I just want you guys to think about this very profound, deep question. All right. I want you to think, why do you think the chicken crossed the road? What made the chicken cross the road? Just keep thinking about it, and I'll give you the answer, a very deep answer, at the end of this video. Sounds good? All right, let's see. How do I share my screen? Hold on. Come on. All right. Go to my Notability, and here is the thing. There are about 3 questions that I gathered, and I thought I'll make a quick video on how to solve these questions. Basically, what I'm going to teach you is, of course, we are going to go over these 3 questions, but what I would like you to focus on is how am I identifying the y-intercept and the slope. If you get these 2 down, you'll be able to solve any question that is given in your test. Sounds good? So let's go ahead and start with the first question over here. A construction crew is lengthening a road that originally measured 9 miles. So my given is the initial measurement of the road is 9 miles. In other words, this is what we are starting with. Okay? Whenever you have something that you're starting with, that is your initial given, you're starting at that point. What do you think it is? It is nothing but the y-intercept. So here, because we are starting with our given, which is 9 miles, my y-intercept is 9. The crew is adding 1 mile to the road each day. So if I would like to write it in mathematical notation, I'm going to write it as 1 mile per day. Yes or no? So which means this is my slope, because you guys know that the slope is always a ratio, right? Rise over run is slope. And if you see a ratio or a division problem, that is slope. That's it. You're done with this question, aren't you? Write an equation relating L to D. So your L will be equal to the length of the road. What is L? Length in miles after D days of construction. Now, this is important to note. After D days of construction. That means they kept constructing for D days. In 1 day, they are building 1 mile. In D days, they are building D miles, right? 1 times D. That's it, right? So your L, your final length of the road will be whatever is the initial length, 9, plus the length that they built in D days, which is D miles. All right. If I would like you to write it in slope intercept form, you will write it in this format, right? Y is equal to mx plus b, correct? So I'm going to rechange it into L is equal to 1D plus 9. Now, in your test, if you're given this problem, in any test for that matter, you'll be asked to graph this also. So, it says then graph your equation using the axis below. Of course, I don't have the axis over here, but this problem is there on your Alex, all right? So how do I graph it? In place of slope, I have 1. In place of y-intercept, I have 9, correct? So what I'm going to do is, on my y-axis, I'm going to put a point at 9. Imagine this is 9. All right. And then my slope is 1, also can be written as 1 over 1. I will go up 1 point, go right 1 point, and I'm going to mark another point over here. And then draw a line through these points. So that is how you will tackle these problems. Anyway, again, the takeaway is not how to solve this problem. The takeaway is how do I identify the y-intercept and how do I identify the slope from the given problem. So let's quickly go to the next problem. You are driving home. Yay! So you're driving home, towards home, all right? You start 300 miles away from your home. So this is where you're starting. Again, what is this? Our starting point. What do you think it is in linear equation terms? This is your y-intercept, all right? You drive at a constant speed of 60 miles per hour and identify these units over here, miles per hour, which means what? That is a ratio, which means what? That is slope. All right. Now now let us look at the question. Define your variables, h for hours driving and d for distance remaining. All right, we got it. So what we are going to do is we're going to use h for hours driving and d is the distance remaining to go where? To go back home. Write an equation modeling your distance from home. Hint, is the distance increasing or decreasing? Now, this is an important thing. You're driving towards your home. That means the distance is decreasing. When the distance is decreasing, you take away from the 300 meters that you have initially, sorry, 300 miles that you have initially. So I'm going to say D is equal to 300 is the initial amount. However, I'm driving towards my house. What speed am I driving at? 60 miles per hour, correct? Excuse me. So if I'm driving for h hours, for 1 hour, I'm driving 60 miles. For h hours, I'll be driving 60 times h miles, correct? So 300 minus 60 times h. Why am I saying minus over here? Because I'm driving towards my house, which means the distance is reducing, all right? That is your equation, and you have it in your y is equal to mx plus c format. All you need to do is rewrite it as d is equal to negative 60h plus 300. All right. But look at the last question over here. It's simple, right? After 3 hours, how far are you away from home? All you need to do is instead of h, plug in 3 and then subtract it from 300. Subtract 3 times 60, 3 times 60 will be 180. Subtract 180 from 300 and you will know how far you'll be from your house after 3 hours. Again, please ensure that you know how to identify the y-intercept and the slope. The problem will be done for you automatically once you have that down. The last problem that I want to go over here. Mr. R, the art teacher, is struggling to maintain his composure while grading sloppy papier-mâché projects. Ouch! To cope with the stress, he has started creating a massive ball of despair in the corner of the room made entirely of dried up, wasted clay. Bro is actually intelligent. That's nice. That's therapeutic. He began the morning with a lump of clay weighing 500 grams. He started, guys, look at this. He started with 500 grams of clay. That is the starting point. So y-intercept is what? 500. All right. Now I'm going to be looking for some ratio over here. Let's see. His frustration grows rapidly. For every student who holds up a blank piece of paper and asks, is this good enough for an A? Mr. R silently mashes another 150 grams of clay into the ball. Okay. So for one question, look at this over here. Read carefully. For every time a student asks, correct? If one person asks, if one kid asks, is this good enough for an A? He's putting in 150 grams. Okay. Say, if S number of students ask this question, he's putting in 150 times S. Okay, do you get this? We have our slope over here. Give me a minute, guys. I'm sorry, but give me a minute. Sorry, it's totally okay. So we have our slope over here. Do we understand that? So let's go back. So if S number of students ask the question, then he'll be putting 150 times S grams of clay, correct? If Mr. R, so let's go ahead and solve this problems. Now that we have our y-intercept and we kind of have our slope coordinate over here, slope term over here, let's go ahead. In the slope, create a linear equation in the slope intercept form, y is equal to mx plus b, that models the weight of the clay ball. Let x represents the number of students. Okay, sorry, they want it as x who asked the question, and let y represent the total weight of the ball in grams. So the total weight y will be equal to the starting weight, which is 500 grams. See, he started with 500 grams, no? So the starting weight 500 grams plus 150 times x. Okay, because why? Every time one student asks, he's putting 150 grams of clay. He's adding 150 grams to the 500 grams. If x number of students ask that question, it will be 150 times x. So you have your equation over here. That's about it, guys. So that is what I want to cover in this video. Sorry about all the disturbances, but I hope you got the point over here. To identify the y-intercept, what you have to do is you have to go ahead and ensure what your starting point is. What are you starting from? Some of the problems that you guys have already noticed is I'm taking a gym membership, and initially the initial cost of joining the gym membership is say $500. And for every 1 hour, I have to pay an extra amount of money. Then what do? For every 1 hour, so you'll start with $50 if that is the initial amount that I've just mentioned. I forgot, but you'll start with $50, and if I exercise for 3 hours, I'll be paying 3 times. Say they're charging $15 hour, 3 times 50, 15 plus 50. All right, but this, if I'm exercising like say for 8 hours, it will be 3h plus 50. So that is how you will solve these problems. The last question is pretty simple. If they ask for like total of 18 times, what do? 150 times 18. Okay, because even if actually, you know what, even if one student asks it 2 times, you will consider it as 2, because we are adding, he's every time he hears a question, he's adding 150 grams. Correct? So total number of 18 times he was questioned. So you'll plug in 18 in place of x, and you will get your answer, which will be about what? 2,700 plus 500, it's about 3,200. So that is how you'll solve these problems. Come see me if you have any questions. Okay, bye.